Today we're going to talk about how to solve equations by simplifying first. Sometimes your equation is not always ready to be solved. Sometimes we need to do a little bit of simplifying before we can get our equation in the format that we want it to be able to go ahead and simplify. Today we're going to focus on simplifying our constants before we add or subtract to solve our equations. An example of this type of problem would be m plus 22 minus 4 equals 39. If you notice, there are two constants on the left-hand side of the equation. We know what 22 minus 4 is. Our first step is that we're going to simplify those constants so we can get our variable plus or minus a number equals another number. To do that, we're going to do the addition and subtraction that we learned way back when in elementary school. We're going to take 22 minus 4, and we're actually going to go ahead and calculate that. So 22 minus 4 is 18, and we'll get m plus 18 equals 39. Since 22 minus 4 is a positive 18, we're going to use the sign of our number as the operation on our equation. If for some reason this would end up being a negative number, then we would subtract. So again, I repeat, we are going to use the sign of our number as the operation in our equation. 22 minus 4 equals 18. Now we have our equation set up in the format that we want. M plus 18 equals 39. It's our variable plus or minus a constant equals a constant. And we learned in our previous days exactly how we're going to solve this. So we need to get m by itself. To do that, we're going to undo what has been done to m. We're going to undo what's been bothering m. In this particular equation, when we take a look, we can see that plus 18 is bothering m. So we need to undo that plus 18. And how are we going to do that? That's right. We're going to subtract 18 because plus 18 minus 18 cancels out to equal 0. We have to remember our seesaw, our scale rule, and whatever we do to the left side of the equal sign, we also have to do to the right side of the equal sign. So essentially, we're going to subtract 18 twice, once on the left of the equal sign and once on the right. So we also need to subtract 18 from the right-hand side. Now we're going to simplify, just like we were doing yesterday and the day before. Nothing has changed about that process. We're going to get m plus 18 minus 18, plus 18 minus 18 cancels out, and we're left with m. We bring down our equal sign, and we calculate 39 minus 18. 9 minus 8 is 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. Therefore, our solution is m equals 21. Remember that we need to test to make sure that our answer is correct. So we're going to plug it back into the equation and see if it equals. Plug it back into your original equation. So we're going to say 21 plus 22 minus 4, and we're going to ask, does that equal 39? 21 plus 22 is 43. Does it equal 39? And then let's see, what's 43 minus 4? Well, type that into the calculator, and for sure, you're going to get 39. Since 39 equals 39 is a true statement, that means that yes, our answer is correct. If for some reason you ever get something that does not match down here, that means your answer is not correct and you need to go back and find your errors. Okay? All right, let's take a look at another example. Maybe our constants aren't going to be right by each other. So if you remember back to learning our properties, we have a property of addition that says we can go ahead and rearrange 13 plus g plus 16 in any order, and it's going to mean the same thing. It's not going to change the problem. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's rearrange and put our constants next to each other. Right? G is the only variable, so I'm going to bring that out front. Since the sign in front of G is addition, that means G is positive. Since there is no sign in front of 13, that's automatically assumed to be positive, and we're going to use our operations and our signs interchangeably. Since this is a positive 13, we're going to add 13. And then we're going to bring down our addition of 16 and the rest of our equation that we have not touched. Now, this problem looks exactly like the one we just did. So what was our first step? That's right. We're going to add our constants together. We need to add positive 13 and positive 16 together. What happens when we add positive 13 and positive 16 together? Type that into your calculator, and you're going to get G, which we haven't changed, so we bring it down. 13 plus 16 is 29. We haven't done anything to our 70, so we're going to bring that down as well. All right, now we're set up in the format that we can go ahead and we can add or subtract so that we can get our variable alone. What do we need to do to go ahead and get our variable alone? You got it. We're going to subtract 29 on both sides of the equal sign. Because plus 29 minus 29 cancels out to equal 0. And G plus 0 simplifies just to be G, and we get G by itself. Type into your calculator 70 minus 29, and you're going to find that our answer is 41. And we have solved our equation. Let's go back and do our check. 13 plus 41 plus 16, does that equal 70? 13 plus 41 is 54, plus 16, does that equal 70? Type that into our calculator, 54 plus 16, that is indeed 70. Since that is true, our answer is correct. So we have three basic steps that we're going to follow to solve these types of equations. Our first step is going to be to use the commutative property. And remember that the commutative property tells us that we can rearrange our equations so that our constants are together. Don't change what side the constants are on. We're going to leave everything on the side of the equal sign that it appeared on. Notice back on our other equations and our other examples. We didn't change what side of the equal sign it was on. We rearranged it on the side it was already on. You'll see in the future that we may be able to simplify on both sides, and if you can, go ahead and do that. We're going to complete the operation between the constants. We're going to simplify those constants, and then we're going to be set up to solve the equation using addition and subtraction as we did normally. So let's take a look at these examples while following those steps. Okay. Step 1, use the commutative property to rearrange your equations so that the constants are together. Here we have the constant -3. Here we have the constant -12. I want to put those two side by side. So I'm going to bring my variable out front because it's alone, and I'm going to bring down my constants. Again, notice the sign in front is also the operation, and the operation in front is also the sign. All right? Step 2. Now we're going to complete the operation between the constants. -3 minus 12, type that into the calculator, you're going to get -15. That negative is the operation we're going to use in the equation. So we're going to get b minus 15 equals 30. Step number 3, solve the equation using addition or subtraction as normal. Now we're down to our equations that we're used to solving. If we've subtracted 15 from b, we need to add 15 to both sides of the equation. Minus 15 plus 15 cancels out. I'm left with b. 30 plus 15 equals 45. Don't forget to do your check. For the time's sake of this video, we're going to skip our check, but you should make sure that you're doing it every time. So the point of the check here is you should know whether or not your answer is correct before you even submit it to me, because you can check and make sure by putting it back into the equation that you get what you're supposed to. And those are our 3 steps. Another example. Here's where we might have constants that we can simplify on both sides. This is an example. So step number 1, use the commutative property to rearrange your equations so that your constants are together. Don't change what side they're on, and if you can simplify on both sides, do so. I have a constant here, I have a constant here, I have a constant here, and a constant here. I'm going to rearrange my equation so that my 8 and my 5 are together. A is by itself, I'm going to bring it out front. Positive 8 gets addition. Negative 5 keeps its subtraction. I haven't done anything on my right side of the equation because 24 and 5 are already next to each other. I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone. Now I want to complete the operations between my constants. Step number 2. I'm going to go ahead and simplify 8 minus 5. 8 minus 5 is a positive 3, so I'm going to add 3. Now here's where that simplifying on the other side of the equal sign also occurs. I can go ahead and simplify 24 plus 5. I know what that is. I can do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. 24 plus 5 is 29. So it continues to increase the level of steps in your equation, but it all centers around simplifying before we go ahead and solve for our variable. All right, step number 3. Solve our equation using addition or subtraction as we normally did in the previous days. We're adding 3 to the variable, so we need to do the opposite by subtracting 3. And we need to do the same thing on both sides of the equation, the equal sign. A plus 3 minus 3 cancels out. I'm left with A. 29 minus 3 is 26, and so I get A equals 26. Again, remember that you need to check to make sure that this is correct. These are the ways to use these steps to solve equations by simplifying constants before adding or subtracting. Now continue on to do the practice and practice these steps on your own.